Welcome to Anglo-Romani with Pricey. I'm Pricey, and in this series I sort of look at the etymology of words in the Anglo-Romani paralanguage sort of as a lens to how the culture has evolved and is what it is today. So in this episode I'm looking effectively at adjectives. It'll be the first sort of time I'm looking at adjectives, and some of these words were very difficult to research, especially towards the end of the video. One in particular I have just sort of given up on for now, but I will say what it is at the end of this video, and if you happen to know something about the origin of this word, please let me know in the comments and I'll include it in the next time I look at adjectives. To get straight into things, first off we have the word Ladjed. This means embarrassed or ashamed in some way, maybe humbled, maybe another way of saying shy. Typically you can also sort of pair this with the English word up to say ladged up. I've been ladged up. It means like I've been stitched up. I've been made a fool of. And in my personal experience, my dad tended to use this one, like let's say we'd been really badly behaved as kids out and about in a public space. You see, like, you know, I've been ladged up or I'm ladged to death, you know. So it's kind of that sort of, it literally just means embarrassed, mortified, effectively, you know, really strong semantic meaning. As for the origin of the word laj, this one can be traced all the way back to Proto-Indo-Aryan via sort of Saraceni, Prakrit and Sanskrit. It has pretty much not changed in either its meaning or it's changed somewhat in its sound, but like not a lot. It's very traceable. The next word I'm looking at is the word Gammi. Gammi is effectively anything that's in a bad condition. If somebody is ill, then they might be Gammi. If something is breaking down, then it is Gammi. You know, the car's gone Gammi or something like that. Not really used to describe objects too often. Mostly it's used to describe people. You might say that someone has a Gammi arm or a Gammi leg, which I'll get onto in a bit. In my case, I could say that my eyes are Gammi. Now, why I say I'll get onto Gammi leg in a bit is because this word is actually familiar to anyone who speaks British English. It doesn't tend to get used that much these days. It's quite an old English term. So it's not one that's come from sort of India or the Middle East or even continental Europe. This one is very much a homegrown word in the island of Britain, and you know, Romani people have just picked it up and used it to describe other things, because historically this was always used to describe somebody who was I think the term is lame. So somebody who has a bad leg that doesn't allow them to walk as well as other people, they would be described as having a Gammi leg. And this may have something to do with its point of origin. So apparently in an old West Midlands dialect, game was a way of saying lame. And then you've got the Welsh word cam and the Irish word cam. Both are, anyone who knows about languages will know these are both Celtic languages, but they are, one is Brythonic and one is Gaelic. And they have nothing really to do with each other apart from being sort of pre-Roman. And both of those words mean, I think one is crooked and one is bent. I'll put it on the screen which one is which. And then there's the old Occitan, which is like that sort of middle-ish area of sort of southern France, northern Spain. And in that region they had the word Gambi, which meant lame as well. And apparently this may also feed into the contemporary French word jambe. It's all very related to somebody who has a bad leg, but in Anglo-Romani we've just used it for anything that is in bad health, bad condition. The next adjective on my list today is the word Bori. I didn't really experience this one growing up, and it wasn't until my mid to late 20s when I'm in the car with my little sister Amy driving me around, when she described somebody that she's moaning about as a Bori Rackley, and I kind of gleaned from the context that what she was trying to say was a fat girl. This one effectively is used in my family disparagingly as the same way that you would use the word fat. It just means somebody who is overweight, somebody who is big. But the history of this word is kind of interesting, because I was going through and researching this word, and I realized, yeah, there are some negative connotations, but the semantics have changed family to family, it seems, because this word can also have some really positive connotations. It can mean kind, it can mean generous, it can be wealthy, just, you know, all of the things that kind of are, you know, how you might describe old Deuteronomy from Cats. This big character who is really positively received and well respected. And it seems once again that this word can be traced back to Saraceni, Prakrit and Sanskrit, though it has changed considerably. In those old languages it was called Vada, meaning eminent, but over time that has evolved until you get to the point where contemporary Indian languages, including Hindi, use the word Bada, meaning big. So it starts off as Vada, and then it goes to Bada, and then that becomes Bora, and then that becomes Bori, and the semantic has changed from being eminent and great to big to just being fat. Beyond Gypsy, Romany and Gorja, there aren't really a lot of terms in Anglo-Romani that I know of that describe somebody's ethnicity or cultural background, except one, Kora, meaning black. Now it turns out this one actually also means the colour black, but I've never really known my dad to refer to colours as anything other than their English words. This one was very much related to black people, and he'd say something like, oh, it's a Kora mush, and I always figured that he was saying the word coloured but was just mispronouncing it, as he often does with a lot of words, just sort of mispronouncing it. I thought he was saying coloured mush, which in its own sense is kind of, you know, iffy. We don't really use that terminology these days, but then a lot of people in my dad's family are much older, and yeah, you know, you're looking at cultural attitudes that go back to the 50s and the 60s quite a lot of the time. But no, he was saying Koromush is a black man, and there's no real racial element to this in terms of being a disparaging term. It is literally just a description. As it turns out, this word is actually very interesting, and there's a lot to unpack here, including how Romani people see themselves in the context of Europe and the entire time they've spent in Europe. For a little bit of context, I have an uncle, is I think my dad's second oldest brother, who the whole family refer to as Black John. He's not actually like black as in sub-Saharan African, but he is the darkest person in my dad's whole family. And my dad himself actually has a kind of year-round Mediterranean look to him, as well as a lot of his siblings. It seems to have skipped my entire generation, but the point is I have an uncle who refers to himself as Black John. And the reason why this is interesting is because this word can be traced back to the usual suspect of Indian languages, and in contemporary Indian languages, particularly in the north, such as Hindi, they use the word kala for black. So Kora can be transferred all the way back to kala, and by the way, this has nothing to do with the English word colour, which has come through from French. And I think that in turn came through from a Latin word meaning shade or pigment or something along those lines. I'd have to look that one up again. The point is, contemporary Indian languages use the word colour for the colour black. And when Romani people came to Europe, we actually see diaspora of different Romani groups in places like Finland, where they refer to themselves as Kale, or Spain, where they refer to themselves as Kalo, or Wales, the Welsh Kale Gypsies. I would imagine comes from the same root word. And let's not forget the first Romani people to rock up in Europe, the Kuldarash Romanis. So it seems that Romani people pre sort of sub-Saharan African people sort of becoming more commonplace in Western Europe, saw themselves as being black. Yet another word that I believed was just my dad and his family butchering the old English language was Chilla. Chilla meaning cold. And you would think, wouldn't you, that this had something to do with chilly. Like, oh yeah, it's chilly, it's Chilla. As it turns out, these words have very little to do with each other as far as I can work out. It all depends on one particular factor that I was unable to research, but if you know, please let me know in the comments and I will tell you what that is in a moment. So, after a lot of digging, I was finally able to trace this word all the way back to the Sanskrit shilalo, meaning the condition of being cold. Shil being cold and alo being a suffix meaning the condition of being. So quite literally, the condition of being cold. But then this begged the question, Chilla and chili, still very similar. Where the heck did chili come from? So I, of course, went and had a look for that. And it turns out that this might have been one of the words brought over by the Vikings, because the contemporary Swedish and I think Norwegian words for cold are chillig. And so we just happen to have this very coincidental sound, chilla, tracing all the way back to North India, and chili tracing back to the Vikings. But then I wasn't able to find anything about where the Vikings got their word from. So there's a potential common ancestor somewhere there. Let me know in the comments if you know anything more about this. After the words lollipop and pal, I would be hard pressed to think of another Romany word that has made its way into the English language quite as well as the word Kushti. Its prominence in London has led it to being pretty much the catchphrase of Britain's most famous sitcom character, Del Boy Trotter.
Oh, don't worry about it. Everything's going to be Kushti. Everything's going to be Kushti. It'll be Kushti. Right, Kushti, Kushti. Oh, Kushti. 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 Yeah, Kushti. Oh, Kushti.
For those who haven't grown up anywhere near London, this word is truly ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It's very much, you say Kushti to someone, they know exactly what you're talking about. Now, a lot of people seem to think that this may have come from the English word cushy, meaning comfortable, but actually Kushti seems to have been around a lot longer. And Yaron Matras from the Romany project at the University of Manchester seems to trace this word back to an old European Romany word, kuch, meaning expensive. This is far too ambiguous for me. When you say European Romany, which part of Europe are you referring to? I have no idea. So obviously I had to go and research this further, and I was hitting dead ends everywhere. There was nothing referencing this word kuch anywhere, apart from people referencing the Romany project. So I'm still hitting dead ends, and I'm not finding anything that is remotely related to it. Until I came across a blog from somebody who had been traveling in Astana in Kazakhstan, where they heard a word that was at the very least similar while over there. And this was, I think, someone who had grown up in England, and they knew the word Kushti from their time in England, and suddenly they were hearing it in Astana in Kazakhstan, and then they went on a bit of a deep dive looking for it. And they say, as part of this blog, that it is known to have been borrowed from Persian and Arabic, meaning happiness or pleasure. I, for one, can't find where it is known anywhere online. But of all the explanations I have come across, this is definitely the one that holds the most water. And those are just some of the adjectives that I grew up with in my experience of Anglo-Romany. There was one particular word that I really wanted to talk about in this video today, which was the word chikli, meaning dirty. I really do want to talk about this word in the future, but first I want to find something concrete about its origin point. Yaron Matras seems to relate it to a European Romani word shikello with the same sort of meaning, but I was unable to find anything about sort of where that word came from. So here I turn to you. If you're watching this video and you happen to know anything about the origin of the word chikli or indeed shikello, then please do let me know in the comments, and I will be sure to thank you in the next video where I actually am able to trace this word back finally. But until then, please do go check out the rest of this series. You can watch these videos kind of in any order. And while you're here, feel free to look at some of my other videos on retro gaming and music discussion or anything else I might be talking about. And if enough of it takes your fancy, feel free to subscribe as well. Feel free to like this video, comment anything that you thought about anything I've brought up today. And until next time, have a good one.